Oh hey, how you going? Alice in Gingerland here. Welcome back to my channel. So I've recently become obsessed with Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. I just think he's bloody hilarious and I love actually learning a lot about current events and everything whilst being able to laugh my head off. One of the videos I watched recently involved some weird scientific studies and I was like, hang on a minute, that might actually make a pretty entertaining video. I've come across some weird scientific studies, I honestly can't remember any off the top of my head, but so many studies where I'm like, how did they get that? Why did they start that? Or who are they surveying to get these results? You know, there's just some that you question and you're like, what? People funded this study? So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm going to scour the internet for the weirdest scientific studies I can find. Should probably have like a trigger warning, I guess. I don't really know what I'm gonna find. I'm guessing there's been some messed up studies with animals or just, I don't know, topics that might trigger people. I don't know, so trigger warning. Meh. Let's get into the video. Weirdest scientific studies. Of course, the first thing I click on is glow-in-the-dark pigs. Questions? So many questions. Let's see if the little blurb answers any of them. In 2006, National Taiwan University Department of Animal Science and Technology inserted the genes for fluorescence from jellyfish into pig embryos. It resulted in 3 pigs that glowed in the dark. Well, son of a bitch, they did it. The scientists claimed that not only did the skin glow with a fluorescence green, but the organs of the pig glowed too. Do you think this was ethical? What was the need to do such an experiment? Those are just 2 of the questions I have. Who? Why? And that looks kind of horrifying, having a glow-in-the-dark pig, right? The poor little piggies, in their organs? Why? Were there any other side effects of that were harmful? Surely that can't. But they're not meant to have jellyfish fluorescence in them. Or did it give them super pig powers? I want to know more about what happened after besides just the glow in the dark. Were there any bad side effects? Was it just glowing and then they just lived with it? Did it eventually come out of their body and they weren't glow in the dark anymore? Questions. So many unanswered questions. The 2-headed dog? Are these all freaking animal ones? Oh god, what is this one? That looks like Vladimir, right? Vladimir Demikhov, definitely a Russian name that I'm not pronouncing right, was known for his grisly experiments between 1930s and 1960s. One of his experiments was to sew the forearms and heads of 2 different types of dogs. Why? He had to sever the jugular vein, the aorta, and the spinal column and linked the circulatory systems. That's a lot to link. A lot of important things there that needed to be severed. The 2 heads could eat and drink separately. Unfortunately, both canines died after 4 days. Oh, of course they did. You just sew them together. That's disgusting. Was there any point of this experiment? Do you think it was cruel? What was the point? What was the end goal in that? From 2 different types as well? They're not gonna mold. You should have freaking known that wasn't gonna Surprised it lasted 4 days. Surprised it didn't die on the surgery table. Oh, that's horrible. Jesus. All right, what's this? Oh, it doesn't look like it involved animals. Phew. Project MK Ultra. That's a terrifying little photo. Also known as the CIA's mind control program. That's a good start. Project MK Ultra were a series of experiments on human subjects. The project developed drugs and procedures to be used in torture in order to weaken the individual to confess through mind control. They use many different methodologies to manipulate people's mental states and alter brain functions, including hypnosis, sensory deprivation, abuse, psychological torture, and isolation. Could you imagine being one of those test subjects? You'd hope they got paid bloody well. You'd be screwed off life after being one of those subjects, right? I feel like the CIA is definitely the worst with those types of experiments. Ones that you hear of are like horrifying, but imagine the ones that you don't hear about. Go, ooh. Oh, that's a gross photo. What is that? Oh, I don't know what that is. It doesn't look good. I'm just gonna put my hand over that. Scientist lets insect live inside her. The sand flea, also known as chica flea, is pretty gross. It burrows permanently into the skin of a warm-blooded host, like a human, where it swells, defecates, and produces eggs before dying 4 to 6 weeks later, still embedded in the skin. We know a lot about them, but until now, their sex lives have been shrouded in mystery. Not anymore! A researcher in Madagascar was so interested in sand flea development that she let one of the bugs live inside her foot for 2 months. Oh, stop! Oh. The thing in life that grosses me out the most is the thought of bugs living inside you. Oh, like stories where people are like, oh, and then it busts up and the bugs just. Her intimate observations paid off. She figured out that the parasites most likely have sex when the females are already inside their hosts. Who's obsessed with a freaking sand flea? Like, not enough to have it live inside you. Why would you care that much about how they have sex? That's something that I would have been okay never knowing in my entire life, you know? Should have given myself a bloody trigger warning. Blood of young mice rejuvenates old mice. There are a lot of different interpretations of vampires out there. Some sparklier than others. A little Twilight joke in there. But two things remain consistent. Vampires guzzle blood and they live forever. As it turns out, if you're trying to start young, you could do worse than start with the blood of young victims. What? Scientists interested in aging joined two mice together, one young, the other old, and studied the effects. What is wrong with humans? What do you mean you joined them together? Once its circulatory system was connected to that of a younger mouse, the old mouse experienced reversed aging in muscle and in the brain. Although it's not quite time to start asking young kids for blood transfusions, researchers are keen to start clinical trials in humans. Don't do that. Don't do that. What? Don't do that. Can we just accept the fact that as humans it's part of our life cycle to grow old? We lose collagen, we age, it's part of our freaking life cycle. Like, why do we have to be so obsessed with being young? The world would just be a different place if people didn't care about aging. Just let it happen. It happens. There's stuff you can do to prevent it or slow things down. You don't have to go messing with the DNA of children to make yourself younger. All right, what's next? Jesus Christ, I'm feeling ill. Pinpointing where fear lives in the brain. Now there's an experiment. That's actually a pretty cool thing to find out. Fear is a pretty universal emotion, but where does it come from? And what's it like to truly be fearless? Researchers tried to answer the first question in 2011 when they tested a human patient known anonymously as SM who did not experience fear. Wow. SM had lesions on her amygdala? Google?
Amygdala.
Amygdala? What's an amygdala? Does it say it further on? Oh, there we go. A part of the brain thought to be key to our experience of fear. They exposed her to snakes and spiders, took her to a haunted house, and had her watch scary movies. She showed and felt no fear. That settles it, the researchers thought. The amygdala is key to the human fear response. Alright, well that didn't involve animals or doing weird shit to people. Just, hey, here's a bunch of spiders and snakes going to this haunted house. Oh, okay, wait, no, sorry, it keeps going. Then in 2013, some of the same researchers tested SM again. This time they had her inhale CO2, an experience that causes a feeling of asphyxiation. SM didn't stay calm. Oh, instead she had a panic attack, just like the other subjects in the experiment, both of whom also had damaged amygdalas. The findings made it clear that the amygdala isn't the only part of the brain that processes fear, and that fear really is a universal emotion. Oh, so giant waste of time. Oh god, what's this? Shocking people to death. Good title, good study, sounds fun. Stanley Milgram's tests are some of the best known psychological experiments out there, and with good reason. In 1961, in the wake of the high-profile trial of Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann, Milgram set out to test our obedience to authority figures. The experiment was simple. Subjects were instructed to give a series of escalating electric shocks to a person in another room. The shock started at 15 volts and ended at a massive 440 volts. That's a lot, that can't be good. Ugh. Although the two were separated, the subjects could communicate with the person getting the shocks and hear their faked reactions. Oh, okay, so they weren't actually getting the shock. Okay, well that's good. Which included screaming, banging on the wall, and complaining of a heart condition. After a while, the person in the next room would stop responding completely. The subjects were not threatened or berated. If they expressed discomfort, they were simply instructed a maximum of 4 times to keep administering the volts. The results were shocking. Milgram found that a full 65% of subjects, despite obvious discomfort, administered the final and seemingly fatal 450 volt shock to the person in the next room. I'm sorry, I don't care how many times you tell me to do something. If I think that that's going to kill them, why would you do it? Wow. Could you imagine after that experiment when they're like, oh, they weren't actually feeling the shocks, but you actually were fine with pushing that button, you bastard? When you feel like an asshole of like a sheep when you found out that it was just to see how obedient people can be, even if it means possibly killing someone. All right, next one. Reanimation with dead hearts. If you're smart, you already have a plan for the zombie apocalypse and you've got a survival team already picked out. As it turns out, reanimation may not be complete science fiction. Researchers in California were successfully able to transplant dead, non-beating hearts into young baboons. Although each of the subjects eventually died, they say that their findings suggest that we should one day be able to transplant dead hearts into humans too. But they die. But what does it mean eventually die? Eventually isn't a very good specific time frame. Eventually could be like, oh, they eventually died after a few hours or a few days or a few years. What do you mean eventually died? We're learning a lot here today. Feeling a little nauseous. That's sheepy. The Barbraham Institute conducted a scientific study to determine whether sheep were capable of recognizing the faces of other sheep. The study concluded in 2001 and the researchers discovered that sheep could recognize the faces of about 50 sheep, 80% of the time. How do you... Sheep could recognize the faces of about 50 sheep 80% of the time. What kind of result is that? They also remembered them for over 2 years. Not sure the reason behind the study, but we're sure it's better than any of us. About 50 sheep 80% of the time. How do us humans know if a sheep is recognizing another sheep? Just by like the way that they treat it? It could just be based on how they're feeling that day, you know, like, oh, it's because he remembers it, it's been 2 years. Or it could be he's just in a good mood today and would be happy to see any fellow sheep. Anyway, at least that's a bit more lighthearted. Nobody had to get hurt for that, so that's okay. Penguins projectile poop. Sorry. Fantastic way to start. Who hasn't wondered about penguins and their poop, right? Never. In 2003, the Journal of Polar Biology published a study of the trajectory of penguins' projectile poop. Sounds like a tongue twister, right? That was actually indeed a tongue twister and hard for me to say. The study showed that the poop, sorry, just poop is one of my favorite words. The study showed that they poop this way because of the gastrointestinal, oh, I hate that word and I know what it is and I just sometimes can't say it. Gastrointestinal, nailed it, I think, pressure, and also that it can land about 40 centimeters away from them. That's a lot. Okay, that's the first one when I've been able to have a bit of a chuckle, so that's good. Picasso pigeons. This one's a lot more lighthearted and I like it. In 2010, a researcher managed to prove that pigeons weren't just dumb, annoying birds that pooped on everything. They can actually tell the difference between good and bad paintings that were made by children. The pigeons were positively reinforced when they pecked at good paintings, and after a while they were able to determine which ones were good. They could also observe colour and pattern cues in paintings they'd never seen before. What? What do you mean? How are you judging what a bird is thinking by its pecking? They peck things. It's the freaking bird thing to do. What? Well, I was expecting to find some more weird stuff that was done on humans, but mainly just animals, which... that's not nice. I mean, at least these last ones, no one got hurt. It was just watching what they do, which is fine, but the projectile poop is pretty cute. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm honestly feeling a bit queasy, hey? I needed those last ones to perk me back up. Faith in humanity went down a little bit. Not gonna lie, quite a lot actually. If you like this video, awesome, that's good, thank you. Please give it a big thumbs up if you did. I mean, I learned some stuff I didn't really want to know. If you're enjoying the content, please hit that big red subscribe button, means the absolute world to me. Oh, I need to give a comment shout out. Oh, actually this one, yeah, I really like this. This week's comment shout out from my previous video on Ginger Reacts to Ginger TikToks part 2 goes to Emma. I really like this because it's so true. And when an opposite gender ginger walks past and your friends are like, oh my god, it's your boyfriend. So true, it used to happen all the time. Or more commonly like, ah, it's your brother. It's like, ha ha ha. Yeah, we're all related, that's how that works. If you'd like to see me more often, the link to my Instagram is in the description below. That's all for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.